It's really exciting to do something with a group of people, even in this fashion. I've been looking forward to this. I have a couple of videos that will kind of introduce the Small Talk program, and then I'll be happy to talk about what we're doing locally at the Marshalltown Library and answer any questions that I can for you. So I believe Kim is playing the videos for us. Okay.
Yep, hopefully this works. So here we go.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Lena technology is the industry standard for measuring talk with children, which is a critical factor in early brain development. Lena uses a small wearable device, often referred to as a talk pedometer, combined with cloud-based software to deliver detailed feedback that helps adults make proven, sustainable increases in interactive talk with children. First, the device captures a full day of the child's language environment. The child wears the device in clothing with a special pocket that helps Lena hear and measure accurately. At the end of the day, the file from the device is transferred to a cloud processing system. This system uses audio processing algorithms to analyze the file. The system doesn't recognize words, it just counts them. Files are immediately deleted after processing. No one can ever listen to the audio. The software then generates objective, actionable feedback reports for caregivers on the quantity and quality of talk in their child's environment. The reports highlight the amount of words, conversational turns, and competing electronic noise, such as TV or music, that the child experienced during the Lena Day. Program administrators access this data through Lena Online. Lena Online provides all the necessary tools and resources to securely manage a Lena program and measure its effectiveness.
I think that one will suffice, Kim. Did everybody get a sense of, we put a little tiny recorder in a vest on a child, and then we track 3 different things. We track adult spoken words that the child hears. We track the baby's response to the parent. It's called a turn. And we track electronic minutes. And then each week the parents are given a report, and they can compare on an hourly breakdown what the child's day was like as far as those 3 things. And almost everybody immediately makes a correlation between the more electronic minutes there are, which is your television and things like that, devices, and lower turns and words with the child. And they're also given credits for reading with their child every day. There's appropriate numbers of minutes per age. And if they meet that goal, they're given a little star. Any gains they make in turns or conversation. And then we also send them home with a little board book every week. And this has been a really nice format, not only for the parents to figure out ways to interact with their babies better, but it's also a network of support for them. We've brought in some of the ISU extension food programs as guests. A lot of the people end up being friends with each other, helping each other with childcare. They bring toys and things in to share that have worked for them. It sounds simple, but really a lot of us could use some help in learning how to communicate with babies. I think I did a really good job of reading to my child when she was little, but I maybe didn't wait for the response. Their little brains work 5 times more slowly than ours. So it's good to get some input from somebody with some actual facts and science behind it and proof of what you're doing is making gains or improving the development of your child's brain through reading. So I'm fascinated with this, and I'm very excited for it because I've always known, I mean, we just know that it's good to read to your children, but here are some actual fact-based things that show them gains in what their child's able to do. And there's really a very small window from 1 to 3 where you can really develop your child's brain. So we're getting into the community, we're reaching people of all incomes, and we're doing something that makes a very positive difference in those children's lives. And the parents leave the program very excited, and it's grown by word of mouth. People are excited for it. It's also gaining some traction with funding from governments out on the East Coast where they started the program. We were a pilot project through Iowa State and Lena. So we were a research pilot cohort the very first go around. And then it's now an up and running program. They've trimmed it down from 13 weeks to 10 weeks because they felt like there weren't significant gains after that. And we wanted to use our resources in the best way. So I can't say enough good things about the program. I have a lot of close bonds with those parents and children because of it. I'm seeing, we even ran a class that was all Spanish speaking, and I couldn't teach that class because I don't speak Spanish, but we had a lovely volunteer or intern from ISU who taught that class, and then I just kind of sat in on it and helped where I could. So we're really making a difference in the community with this program, and I like it because it's not something that is hard or something that's simply limited to people with a lot of resources. Everyone can read to a child, and everyone can interact better with children. So I would be happy to answer any questions. I hope I've explained it in enough detail to get the gist of it, but I'm very proud to be involved with the program. So does anyone have any questions for me?
Feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question, or you can type it into the chat.
Catherine, this is Sue Martin. Can you hear me?
Yep, I see you.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if you can elaborate a little bit on the research impact of the later development of small children who have been exposed to much more language than might have been expected in their early years.
Sure. I know even before Lena, Ready to Read is a group out of Story County, and there was a lot of research that came out that some children are growing up in homes where there's a more limited range of vocabulary, and they don't hear as many words when they're tiny. And during this 1 to 3 years, the brain is, all these little syntaxes are reaching out and making connections. And an electronic sound doesn't mean anything to them. It has to be a human voice. But when they hear a word, it's like their little brains are going, what's that? And they're, oh, that. And then it builds on itself over and over again. So the more words they hear spoken by a human being, the more of these connections are made. And they make so many in this first 3 years, the growth is just exponential. And then the brain starts trimming. And as they get older, you can never regain that initial, they're like little tree trunks, and you can never get back to that initial huge amount of development. Iowa State, Craig Van Pay over at Iowa State is the researcher that I worked with on this, and he's passionate about it. He's been working on it for a number of years. And the Lena program was started, it's out of, I believe, Boulder, Colorado. They're out there, but you can Google Lena, LENA.org, and you can get more detailed information on, and I'm sorry, I could have posted a couple of pictures of what a brain looks like that's had a lot of exposure and one that hasn't. But the one that has just a million little tiny connections, and it's very filled in. And one that's had very few looks like little tree branches. And there's no going back. There's no recapturing those first 3 years. So it's crucial. And a lot of people even are surprised at, they think they're doing a good job of talking to their children, but this recording device, the baby wears it for a day and then they bring it in and I download it, and it actually shows them from like 10 to 11 o'clock, this happened in these areas. And people think they're doing a good job, but they're not waiting for a response from the baby is one of the key things. They maybe have the TV on and don't realize it. And the other thing is it's hard to talk to a child. Some people are better at it than others, but our videos and our programs through the 10 weeks give them key ways to interact with their baby, like when they're making dinner, talk about what you're cooking, count the spaghetti as you drop it in the pot, when you go shopping. So it's putting a lot of information in people's hands so they don't have to build extra time into their day to do this, and then to establish a daily reading habit. So even if you have to go to the grocery store, you can take your baby along, you can talk about what you're putting in the cart, and all of those things help stimulate those little dendrins in the brain. I that give you a little bit more about the little more.
Catherine, we got a question. There's a question from the chat. It's a few questions, so if you need me to repeat them, I can. But what's the maximum class size, and who teaches the classes? Does the program cost the library anything to offer? And then how many classes have been held in Marshalltown, and how many do you anticipate offering?
Okay, I teach the class, except for the Spanish class. And we have had 2 classes a year for 3 years now. We're in our 3rd year. And each class size, we've had larger and smaller classes, and have kind of settled on about 6 to 8 families is ideal. It's not too few people to do a decent discussion, and it's not so many that people get lost in the shuffle. It does cost us about $1,000 per participant to do this 10-week class. And that includes the research and technical end of it, where I have a whole bunch of these little vests and recorders, and then they process the information that I send them over at Ames Public Library, who is also in on this initial cohort of research that they did the first go around. So we are hoping, we had a nice class set up, and then I started running a temperature, and it was back about March 12th, and I work with a lot of older people, and I didn't know what to expect, and I certainly didn't want to give that to anybody if I had some low symptom version of it. So I've been quarantining, but we put the class on pause. I don't know if we'll be able to run it in the fall or maybe next spring, but I go in and register all the participants, and we get some information. They're sent texts and reminders to read to their child. So we get quite a bit for the money that we spend on the program, and we've been very lucky to have some help with the finances on that. We've had a grant from, I'm not going to get the name right here. It's early childhood, Heartland Early Childhood. Let me think here. But we're hoping to continue doing this as soon as we're back up and running. I don't know if there'll be a way to do it in Zoom fashion, maybe. We're kind of exploring that as well. And then I have a question here. Is there anything to be done for people whose development has been lacking? I think, I mean, it never hurts to read or encourage a child at any age. Just showing interest in a child is a huge impact on their lives, no matter what kind of start they've had to their life. And this is fairly new research, where they're realizing that babies need the stimulus of a person, a human being. You may be seeing some things where people are volunteering and going in and holding infants and talking to them in ICUs, things like that. They're finding premature babies. There was a study on preemies that showed they're behind when they go to school a little bit. And it turns out it isn't from any developmental cause. It's from lack of human contact. They've been able to establish that. So it's very, very important. And I think as our culture becomes more online and more, you know, there's just more media and more tech stuff all the time. And it's hard sometimes for young parents to realize, you know, put the phone down, look at your child, talk to your child. And I understand it's a really tempting thing, but the people who have come through this have seen a difference in how many words are spoken without those things in their day. And if they can learn to, you know, just even limit it during that first 3 years, it's well worth it. So, okay. And the ages I work with, the children need to fall within that 1 to 3 range. We've had a couple of moms who were expecting to take the class, and that's fine. And because this information is something that it's not only with the children they have now, but it's future children and older children benefit from it. So they have to pick one child in their family that's within that age range to do the recordings with, but all the children in the family benefit. And we have a little graduation ceremony for them at the end of the 10 weeks. And they get a little teddy bear, and Joa always has some books and some fun activities for them. We've decorated cookies, and we have a group photo and celebrate each family's successes. But it's really something we encourage the whole family to get involved with. So let's see here. Looking at the questions here. Yeah, there's just, as more studies and more research comes out, it's just more and more important to understand how to listen and talk to your baby. There's 14 talking tips that we give people. And there are things like asking open-ended questions. And I always like to point out that if you need your child to do something, giving them a choice, do you want to get in the car on the left side or the right side? You know, things like that, where it gives them a little bit of empowerment. They get to a say in which side of the car they get in, but at the end of the day, they get in the car. So there are a number of things like that that we share with parents, and then there's a lot of open sharing with each other as well. So.
And I'll say we've worked really hard to get a wide range of parents. So you might think, oh, it's just for low income, but Catherine's worked really hard, and Joa. And like, we had one mom who has a bachelor's and a master's, and she was pretty shocked at her first review. Like, whoa, you know, she assumed I'm a highly educated parent, and her scores just went up continually after that. But, you know, I think it's easy to think that you're doing something, but until you have some evidence to back it up. And we were very excited when Iowa State University reached out to us and Dr. Connie Beecher, because they just felt that they would get some good feedback from us, and I think it's worked out well for our community. So.
Thank you for offering all the support for the program, Sarah. It's really nice to work with a library that supports every aspect of the community, and especially this learning, because the learning, it just, there's no way to ever really catch that time frame up. And if we can spread that information out to people, we're empowering people beyond what we can even know. So it's a really great program, and I think it's one of the most effective programs I've ever seen for early literacy. The future of this program in Marshalltown, I would hope we expand it. I know, I believe it's North Carolina, they have the program, and it's starting to be a city and county funded program where it's bigger than just the libraries. The local governments are actually starting to see the value and fund for the program. So I would hope we just continue to expand. I was very excited about our Spanish class. They really embraced it. And it was, inputting the information, I learned a little Spanish. But they're a very nice community of people, and it's provided kind of a a stronger bond between the library and those parents that went through the program.
I think the thing that's impressed me about this program, and so many of us at Rotary especially have worked with Read by Third and other programs, but this program that's for 0 through 30, I mean, if every child could have this program and we don't have the resources, I mean, our children would be so much further ahead, and this would just like set them on a path for success that would be unprecedented. So, you know, we're doing it in a small scale, but it's a program that has huge results. And I know we're always looking for the magic, you know, the magic key, but I feel like this program is particularly has such strong measures. We just haven't been able to offer it, and we probably never will in a larger amount, but it's really the results that we've gotten are phenomenal. And as Catherine said, especially our Latino families that just did it, I mean, that was even stronger. So, I mean, it's just been really, really great. And I want to say this is the only program we've ever offered childcare in the library. And we've had a great group of volunteers that came and were baby holders, and you know, they all had to be background checked. But so that was very different for us too, to do that.
I've got a couple of questions about, are we working with child care providers? And I wanted to expand on our latest class. I'm actually going out to the Bobcat Academy and teaching it. And it's the first time that we've kind of partnered with the child care providers. Normally we do it in the library, and it's a pretty labor intensive thing to set up and know how many children they're going to have to watch while we teach the parents. We try to have the kids with somebody doing childcare so the parents can really focus on the information. So by changing the location to the Bobcat Academy setting, there was built-in childcare, and then the parents just came and met with me in another room. So we're going to see how it goes. So far, it's gone beautifully, and we have a really great group of volunteers that do help with the childcare when we're at the library. So I think there's all kinds of fluidity with this program, where you could move it off-site, you can do it in the library. Someone mentioned we had a gal whose son was struggling with some delayed development, and he has greatly improved after his mother went. She has put a whole bunch of people in touch with us as far as this being a great program. She's really spread the word about how much it helped. We've also had some situations where we do developmental snapshots about 3 times during the 10-week program, and they're asked, parents fill out a series of normal development milestones, and we've had a couple people that didn't realize there were developmental issues, and we've been able to refer them. So this is such a beneficial thing, because a lot of people don't know what's normal. They don't know how to interact effectively with somebody that doesn't answer you. And they don't have time, you know, to do some fancy program. And most of this stuff is very down to earth, very, very easy to do if you're aware of it and be reminded of it. So that's what we're doing, and we're seeing good results. And I just think it's the best program I've seen. And I've done years and years of story time and after school programs, and those are all wonderful, but this is right at the root of it, right when you can really make some big gains, and every child could benefit from this. I hope I've been able to give you a decent overview. If you think of something else you have questions about, feel free to reach out to myself or Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. You guys do a lot of good work in the community, and I'm really excited to see you Zooming and finding a way to continue here. So thank you.
Catherine, thank you for that. That's a very interesting presentation. I've got a grandson who's the youngest of 3 boys, and he's about 2 years old, 2.5. And he's got 2 older brothers that, like, in a lot of situations, whenever there's communication going on, those boys communicate for him. They cut in front of him, they talk for him, and I think that's fairly, my daughters did the same thing to the youngest one too. And he understands everything, but he's not as responsive. And so I've listened to this with really great interest. And that may just be a thing where he needs to be separated a little bit and spend some more one-on-one time with his mother and father. And of course, in these day and times, that's sometimes kind of hard to do. But very interesting presentation, and I appreciate your work here, and thank you for coming to Rotary with it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay. Next week, we are going to hear from Dr. Schutte about what they're doing out at the high school and what the COVID interface is going to be with opening and that kind of thing. That should be an interesting presentation by one of our own, a Rotarian. Anything else? Anybody else have any announcements or things they'd like announced? Remember the food drive, June 20th. Okay, with that, we'll just recite the four-way test and we will adjourn. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you all for attending, and we're adjourned, and have a good week.
Have a good
Goodbye.
day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kim.